Why we're surrounded by...
So is it all or nothing for you?
100%. What's the point in half-assing anything? You should whole-ass everything.
Whole ass everything.
Whole ass
I don't think I've
everything.
ever heard anyone say that.
It's from a TV show. I can't remember. But yeah, it's whole ass everything.
No, I like it. Absolutely. So are you monetizing on TikTok at the moment then? Indirectly?
No. Well, we've hired from it and we've got a client from it. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the person we just hired, she joins in January and she's one of the most senior hire we've made in terms of experience and is sick. Like I'm so pumped for her to have on board and I'm very lucky that she's decided that she wants to work for us. She came across us on TikTok.
Is she going to smash your TikTok strategy now?
She's going to come on as account manager, so she'll be working with clients. But yeah, hopefully smash their TikTok strategies.
Yeah, get her involved in that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, what the other thing I was going to ask you around personal branding specifically, why is that so important for businesses then? What can personal branding do that business branding can't do?
It's funny because people always ask me, like, what should I build, my personal brand or my company brand? And I'm like, both. Like, people fundamentally misunderstand the difference between the two. One is a collective voice and face and brand of your business, right? Like, that's the reputation of your business is your company brand. The personal brand is the reputation and brand of an individual. And so I kind of like looking at personal branding and company branding like the forehand and backhand of like a strong tennis player. You can do quite well if you have one, but if you've got both, like you're pretty much unbeatable. The reason why personal branding though is so impactful to company branding is because it's got so much more reach, like 561% more reach than a company brand, a personal brand has. So if I posted something, regardless of how many followers I have, I'm going to get up to 561% more reach than if my company posted it. Leads that come through an employee social media convert, I think it's 7 times more frequently than leads that come through any other channel. Brand messages that are shared by individuals within a business, i.e. an employee or a founder, are reshared 24 times more frequently than when they're shared on the company social media. So you can sit here and be like, oh, we don't want people to build their personal brands, they're worried they're going to leave and blah, blah, blah. That's great for you. But if your competitors have got like a culture of personal branding, they're going to be reaching so many more people than you and therefore will be the best known and therefore the best in the market.
Why is that though? Is that just because of that sort
People
of
buy
trust
from
factor?
people.
Yeah. Okay.
What on earth? Like people buy from people, right? Like we only have to look back into like the 50s or the 1800s or whatever. People did business around a table with each other, around a golf course, around over a beer. Like people want to do business with other human beings. And what people fundamentally misunderstand about marketing, particularly B2B marketing, is people are marketing to a business. A company goes, we're a business, we sell to businesses, we need to market to a business. There is a person behind that business who is making the buying decision, right? A human being. There's not a robot who goes, you're a business and I'm a business and we want to buy from you. There is a human being behind that purchasing decision. So of course, who do you think they're more likely to buy from in procurement or in the decision-making process? The person they really like and have a really good relationship with and are seen online all the time and have a trust with, or the average company that does the same thing?
Shirt and tie.
You're much more likely to buy from the person that you already trust because you've seen all their content all the time or you've built some kind of rapport with them, right? Like when I have meetings with clients, they go, oh, like I love that post that you did, blah, 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 and they'll mention something I posted like 7 weeks ago. And to me, that post has been and gone, but it's stuck in their mind. And so when they walk into the room with me, they've already made the decision they want to work with us. It's more about the semantics of figuring out when to start and how we do it and da-da-da-da. So yes, personal branding is personal for sure. It's something that your employees take away with them. But the access it gives you to new clients, new employees, getting in front of people and in rooms that you otherwise would not get in front of or in is immeasurable, like immeasurable.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's pretty crazy when you put it like that, actually, because as you say, I mean, something we're certainly trying to build at the moment is this idea of humanization and credibility and exactly what you just mentioned. We want people to know that we are human beings and we've got your back, so to speak, you know, and you don't get that from robots. You don't get that from the businesses. So I can see why that would be very powerful. So,
I mean, no one wants to do business with a robot, do they?
I don't know. iRobot, Will Smith.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, no.
I'm all good, thanks.
Chris Rock. No. Shouldn't have said that. Cut that. So your content that you're putting out online, you said it's not about the followers. You've got a lot of followers. What is it about then?
For me, like at this point right now, it's about money.
Yeah. So where does that come from? The followers or the engagement or neither?
It's two things, right? Like I could sit here all day long and be like, post quality content, which is what everyone says. But there is a duality to this, right? Like you need to post quantity in order to get in front of people to be able to, for them to see the quality. Like, so of course, I know I've said flippantly said, I don't give a shit about the followers. I do give a shit about the followers because to a certain degree, the volume of followers that I have will dictate the number of leads that I get in based on the type of people that I'm trying to attract with the content I'm sharing. But what I mean when I say I don't care about the followers is I could have 2 followers or I could have 100,000 followers, right? That's kind of irrelevant. What is relevant is the people that are following me are engaged in what I'm saying. They're interested in what I'm saying. They find what I'm saying different, valuable, memorable, authentic, resonating, hopefully educational in some capacity. And if I can do all those things, it's kind of irrelevant whether I have 100,000 or 10,000, because the core of the audience that I do have will be interested enough in what I'm doing that eventually they'll want to buy something, involved in something, whatever it might be. And it's not all about money. I think, I can't remember we were recording when we said this or not, but for me, personal branding is not just about I'm going to build the biggest agency in the world, because although that is a real ambition of mine and I definitely want to get that pink Lamborghini one day, my real core focus is like less about how big can I make this business and how much can I exit for when I'm 38 or 39, and more about what impact can I have on people. Because like I think about what makes me happiest in my life, aside from my beautiful kids and so on and so forth. The things that make me the happiest is when I get one of my team members pulling me aside and just be like, thank you so much for yesterday. Like that pep talk you gave me is like meant that I've enabled to do this. Or I get a DM from someone being like, I saw your post last week and I finally built up the confidence to be able to go and ask for that raise from my boss, and I finally got it. Like that's genuinely why I do this. It's not, yes, we need to make money, and I'm not running a charity. I'm definitely running a capitalist business. Like we're all here to make money. But I feel like you can be profit driven, but also be purpose driven. And for me, it's really about how can I help people reach their potential through getting opportunities to them.
So would you rather have the end goal of making millions and the pink Lamborghini, or just ticking along to 68, retirement age on 20 to 50 grand a year?
Oh, is that even a question?
Yeah.
Of course I want the Lamborghini. Like, what are you, nuts? I don't want to die in front of the TV.
But leading your best life, let's say.
No, I don't think I could live my best life doing that. Taken away is not me.
No?
No. We just spoke, when we first sat down, we spoke about I'm going to be hiking up a mountain in Iceland. Does that sound like someone who wants to tick along on 60 grand a year?
It doesn't cost much. You can't buy things on the way.
I'm not the thing is, money for me is not that motivating. It's the things that money can buy me. And what I mean by that is life experiences. I can give people things. I can buy people things. Like,
that's nice.
My love language is gifts. So all my team get spoiled like with random shit all the time. Like I'll buy them a bottle of champagne for something, or I'll like give them
big teddy bears at Winter Wonderland. I've seen
350 quid vouchers for Selfridges, because like whatever it might be, but obviously for like winning stuff. But like for me, it's not about money. And I joke about the pink Lamborghini. I've actually got it on the background of my phone because I'm like, that's my motivation. But it's not about that. It's what that represents that I can do for other people. And so no, I'd much rather be going balls to the walls for the next 10 years to get to that shit I made it moment, which I'll never get to. I know that for a fact. Like I'll get to that moment that I thought was the oh shit moment. I'll be like, right, what's next? Like I know
I was just gonna
categorically that's what's going to happen, but it's nice to dream that there is an end goal. I don't want to die in front of a TV. I want to die trying to climb a mountain.
Metaphorical or a physical
probably
mountain?
Both.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
You know? Wow. Okay. So there is no ceiling for Amelia Sordell.
Why would there be?
Well, I don't know. It's up to you. Some people there is. I want to make $1 million quid.
That's mental. 100% mental. Why you want to make $1 million? Why not make 2?
Yeah.
Why not make 3, 4, 5? If you can make 1, you can definitely make 10. Like,
yeah.
Like that's where the best advice I ever had when I had a bit of self-doubt, and I have loads of it, by the way. I'm sitting here super confident, like whatever, because that's kind of who I am. But of course I have moments of self-doubt. Of course I have things like, shit, should I really be doing this? Or like, oh my God, I'm so unqualified. Like it's constant. We all have that. It's what makes us human. But I remember having a moment like that when I first started the business. And my previous boss, who's a very good friend of mine, said, well, if you make 100 grand, have you said, have you made you 100 grand? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, if you make 100 grand, you can make $1 million. If you make $1 million, you can make 10. If you make 10, you can make 100. And he said, when you get to 100, you can definitely sell that business for $1 billion quid, because if you think, and I was just like, oh wow, yeah, that's so doable. And I think when they talk about things like $1 billion businesses, everyone's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that crazy. If you can work out the scalable model, It's not that crazy.
But if you've got no ceiling, how stressful must that be to know that you've never accomplished what you want to accomplish?
Because I don't know if for me the accomplishing things is not really as dry as like motivating for me as like the goal itself. Like I think back to my sales days when I was doing recruitment and stuff. Like when I hit these insane numbers, I wasn't like, oh my god, I've done 100 grand. I'd just be like, yeah, right. What's next? Like what's next? Like there was never a sense of achievement from doing that. It was more like the work that I put in to get there that was more rewarding than the actual goal itself. So I don't think it's exhausting because for me, there's no time frame on this. I'm not putting pressure on myself to reach said goal by said time, although apparently that's what you're meant to do. I'm just like, as I said a minute ago, just see where it goes. Like, you know, if I get to next year and we've not done the growth that I want to do, okay, give it a crack the year after. Like there's pressure obviously because I've got mouths to feed. I have a team I'm responsible for. I have literally 2 children that are dependent on my ability to be able to put a roof over their head, right? Single mum, like paying the bills all by myself. Like it can be a lot sometimes, but I'll figure it out. There's no ceiling because the only ceiling really is my death. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like that's how I think about things. Like I'm 32. I've probably got 40 odd years left in me that I can probably really go for it. Reckon if I'm in my 70s, I'm probably going to be like,
I think if anyone's going to keep going after 70, I think
I'll still do stuff, but it won't be like, I'm not, let's be real. When you're in your 60s and 70s, you don't work like you do when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Like you just don't.
You climb mountains.
Yeah, well, like maybe you sail around yachts or something. Get someone to carry me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, there's no, if I don't do it next year, I'll do it the year after. I don't have the journey. Oh God, it sounds so awful, so cliche and horrible. It is really the journey. It is like I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. So like
living your best life.
Yeah. Of course, I haven't got the car I want. I haven't got the house I want. I've got the holidays I want, but that's fine. Like they'll come.
Yeah.
But I think we spend a lot of time worrying about like, when are we going to hit that goal, that we don't go like, oh, this is really fun what I'm doing right now. Like I have had the shittest 2 weeks probably in this year.
Really?
But I've got the biggest smile on my face because I'm like, oh, problems, this is fun. Like, and it's not because I'm inherently like toxically positive, because I'm very positive, but it's because for me, I'm like, these are all things that are actually quite fun to like attack when you remove the stress of like, oh my God, I need to know.
Do you think you thrive off that pressure though?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you? You've got loads of people at work as well who I'm sure see you as a role model as well in what you're doing. That's
God,
a lot.
I hope not.
That's a lot of pressure though. Yeah, I was going to say, but it seems like you love that pressure.
Do I like pressure? I would like to say that I don't, because when I was younger, I think I used to really find it difficult when I was under a lot of pressure. But to be honest, I get bored now and I'm not. Like, I was saying to Sarah the other day, everything was going really well. And I was like, what the fuck am I meant to be doing? And she was like, what do you mean? She's like, run the company. And I was like, yeah, but there's nothing going wrong. Like, what am I meant to do? But it's because I'm so used to problem solving. And I think it's that, going back to what you were saying earlier about curiosity and not being allowed to be curious at school, at least in my first school. I'm so curious now. So when a problem presents itself that I haven't dealt with before, instead of sometimes kind of how immediate reaction often is to be like, oh my God, everything's going to go to shit. And we catastrophize everything. I obviously sometimes I have moments like that, like often probably, but they only last for 5 minutes. And I'm like, right, how can we solve this problem? Like, how can we, either it's consciously or not, how can we move forward from here so that everyone is whole at the end of this process? And that could be as simple as someone in the office doesn't like sweet popcorn, so we need to get salted too. Like something as ridiculous as that. Or another client is in the States and is popping off about something that we didn't have anything to do, and I've got to now deal with the ramifications of that. Like every single day is a school day. And I think that's really fun.
What makes Amelia Sordell angry?
When cyclists go through red lights.
Oh, really?
Definitely pisses me off.
Have you ever done that on your bike before?
No, because I don't cycle.
Oh, do you not? But yet you climb mountains.
Yeah, but I climb mountains.
Yeah.
No, I love walking, but no, cycling's not really my jam. But yeah, when cyclists go through red lights, that really fucks me off.
How do you react to that? Do you just grit your teeth, or do you
like,
beep?
I know I've never beeped because my brain goes, if I beep and they get scared and they get knocked over, then that's my fault. So
That's
like I'll just leave them. I'll just be angry in silence. But no, that like really irritates me because I'm like, come on, man, we're all in the same. Like if I hit you on my bike in my car because you went through a red light, it'll be my fault.
Yeah.
But actually, it's your fault. So like, don't go through red light. If you're a cyclist listening to this, I'm sure you're lovely, but just don't go through red lights. What else pisses me off? It frustrates me when people don't take accountability for their actions. Because stuff goes wrong all the time. like all the time, and it's almost always someone's fault. Someone has always fucked up somewhere, and you can trace it back normally to the person that fucked it up. But no one needs to feel like berated by that or whatever. Just be like, I fucked up. And then we can find a solution. But when you don't take accountability for things and try and bury things, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And so the one thing that was initially probably not a massive problem now becomes this huge problem, whether it be, you know, you didn't message your friend back, or like you said something bad about your friend, all the way through to work stuff. Like everything has an action and a reaction, right? So I wish people would be a bit more accountable for things. And hey, I'm not perfect, right? Like I'm very lucky. I've got Sarah in my team who's like my number 2. And sometimes I'll say something and she'll be like, have you considered it from this perspective? And I'm like, yeah, actually, you're bang on. Definitely shouldn't have said that. Definitely should have done this instead. And so sometimes it's less about being accountable yourself and sometimes surrounding yourself with people who can keep you accountable. But lack of accountability just fucks me off. Like, it's your life. You're in control of it. Sort your life out. Like, it's not up to anyone else to come save you.
Do you know, every time I make a step in a positive direction, both personally and professionally, it's because I've messed up and I've learned from it.
Yeah. Look, I was fired from my first job. My first business failed. I was bankrupt by the time I was 23. I had to move back in with my parents. I've got a failed marriage now. Like, did I die? No,
you're still going.
I'm still going. I'm thriving, in fact. So I think people need to just get a bit real about like what is actually a fuck up and what's not. Because there is very little you can do that's going to fuck up your life. Like, unless you murdered someone, there's very little you can do. So just be, you know, accountable, but also be realistic about what you should be stressing about and what you shouldn't be stressing about.
Hey, it's Mel at LiveLink here. We're making it possible for creators and experts to teach anything online. It is the easiest way to monetize your audience. We'll even sort out your video editing and email marketing for you, leaving you to do what you do best, creating. LiveLink.vip, where creators and experts teach.
What's the worst mistake you've ever made?
Worst mistake I've ever made. Good question. I married my husband? No, I'm joking. No,
Sure, he's not listening.
No,
it's
not.
fine.
He's an amazing dad as well. And I've got 2 beautiful kids out of it, so I can't complain too much.
Well saved.
Yeah. I'm going to get some awful, you can cut this out, I'm going to get some awful message later if this comes out. No, what was the worst mistake I've ever made? I mean, I've made so many. It's not even like I'm trying to think of a mistake I've made. There are just so many mistakes that there is like not one I can pick that'd be like, that was the worst. I think if I can be like all whimsical and like ethereal about it, the worst mistake I ever made was continuing to allow myself to feel like I wasn't good enough for so long. Because I feel like almost all of my problems have come from a lack of confidence, a lack of accountability, to go back to what I was saying a minute ago, before now. Mistakes, like I was saying earlier, the 45k thing was an issue. I didn't invoice a client for 6 months. That was a 45k in our hole in our revenue. There's just so many. I make mistakes every day, but there's not been one that's been like life defining, I would think. And yet, if you looked at my CV, you'd be like, whoa, you bankrupted a business. I'd say that was a pretty big mistake. But, you know, like it happened. Like, you know.
No regrets.
Not really, no. And maybe that's a bit arrogant, I don't know, but yeah.
No, I think it's probably contributed to why you're so successful, or as successful as you are today. It sounds like you've gone through that at school as well. So that sort of drive at school to say, do you know what? I don't have to listen to this. I can make this on my own, doing this differently. And I think that's what you've taken through to clout as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a hyper independence to me. I definitely don't like needing people.
Do you think that's the biggest quality that you have as a business owner? Or let me rephrase, that's one of the better qualities that you have that contribute towards you being a successful business owner.
Being hyper independent.
Yeah.
I actually think it's quite detrimental.
Oh, really?
Because when you're hyper independent, you think you can do everything, and you really are reluctant to ask for help from anyone. And that's one of the reasons why my first business failed. And so now I'm hyper independent personally, so I get on with my shit. You know, I handle my shit. Like that's me as a person. But I think when you're running a business and you have a responsibility to your team to do the best job in running that business, my God, if you don't take help from other people, you're a maniac. Like you're literally playing with people's lives when you're not taking, feedback on and asking people for their support and asking people what they think about things. Like I have a a roster of people that I call for different reasons. I've got one person I call about people problems. I've got another person I call about client problems. I've got another person I have a series of mentors / very good friends that I lean on heavily for things, because if I didn't, I'm a solo founder. Like, who else am I going to ask? I don't have someone else I can bounce ideas off. So no, I think if you're hyper independent, and you are hyper independent as a leader of a business, I don't think it's a contributor. I think it's really detrimental, because you're removing any chance of you growing from someone else's opinion, basically, because you have a fear of like asking for help.
I think I know the answer to this one already based on a few posts you put out there. But the team you have at Clout, are they a family or are they a team?
They're a team.
Yeah?
Yeah. I just, look, I feel like I need to explain myself a little bit with the team family thing.
Go for it.
Because
Molly
when I posted that post, so for context, I posted this post where I said, your team is not a family, they're your employees. And I think that anyone that calls their team a family is toxic, basically, is what I said. Or I said something along the lines, if you're a leader that calls your team a family, you're not qualified to lead one, or something, some provocative.
I can't remember what you said either, to be honest.
I like
exactly.
being provocative, as you know. So like,
I just remember the context.
Like, poke someone. Who can we piss off on the internet today?
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to get a reaction from it. I didn't realize it was going to get that much of a reaction. And like half the comments were people being like, oh my God, finally someone said it. This is so toxic. And the other half were predominantly business owners being like, well, we are a family. We treat each other. And like, look, fine. You're allowed to think whenever you want. My opinion is, if you're part of a family, typically, if you're in a functioning, like happy, healthy family, that's not to say that ones that aren't functioning and aren't happy aren't healthy. Like, fuck me, I want to kill my family most of the time. But I think you understand what I'm saying about the dynamic there, as long as there's no other influences for that family setup not to be as we would imagine it to be. They're not going to measure your performance. They're not going to see whether you're coming in and turn up when you're meant to be turning up. You don't have targets to hit. You don't have remuneration paid to you on the value in which people think that you bring to that family. It's unconditional, right? Your contract with your family is unconditional. They typically will love you regardless, right? Like, you're their family. When you're in a team, your actions are hugely important to what happens in the wider sense of the business. So if you do something to someone else, that impacts everyone. You're measured on your performance. You are remunerated on your contribution to the business, and you can be fired. No one's going to fire their family member, although I'm sure there's plenty of people who would like to.
Yeah.
You don't fire your family member, you will fire a team member. And so I think by telling people we're a family, you're lulling them into this false contract of like, we've got your back regardless of what happens. And that's not the reality. If you come into my business and you do a bloody terrible job, I'm going to let you go. Like, that is a fact. If you come in and not do what you've been hired to do, I'm going to let you go. If I give birth to a child and they don't reach their potential, I'm not going to be like, sorry, refund. Like, you're my child. Like, of course, I'm going to love you regardless, but I'm not going to pay an employee regardless of what they do with their time. So referring to a team as a family is toxic because it makes the employee think that we've got your back regardless, which is not true. It's not true.
So how do you currently retain your employees? What is it that makes your team so willing to stay at Clout, considering they get all of these headhunted messages on LinkedIn and all the rest of it?
I could say it was me.
You're doing something right.
It's not,
There's something going on.
It's not me.
Yeah.
We have such, and it's really hard, I think, to describe a culture externally, because I don't think a culture is something that you build, it's something that's felt, right? And everyone will always say to the founder or CEO, like, oh, you've built such a great culture, like, oh, amazing. But I didn't build that. I hired people who built it. Like, my team, the only credit I can take really in the reason why Clout is so amazing to be in is A, I hired them, and B, I've sort of planted the seeds, but they all watered it. They're all the ones tending the garden. They're all the ones that are really like, as a collective, we are all mission over ego. Like, the mission here is to make Clout the best personal branding agency in the world, and we're all working towards that. So yeah, I mean, the secret sauce is like, hire great people, hire people for your values, not for their skill, because skill can be taught. And I mean that quite literally. Like, one of my employees I hired as a copywriter, now she's a personal brand manager. Another one I hired as a personal brand manager is now head of ops. Like, people move and skirt all over the place. I can teach you how to get where you want to go, but I can't teach you to be a great person. I can't teach you to do the extra things. I can't teach you to put the mission over the ego, or like win or learn in any situation. Like, all the things that make clout, I can't teach you. You intrinsically have to have those things. And I think because we're all, even though we're so different, like so different, if you put us in a lineup, people are like, how the hell do these guys all get on with each other? Like, it's just like, what? Especially when you start talking about politics and religion and money. Like, it's just like, wow, how are you guys friends? And how do you guys get on so well? But it's because we all believe in the same thing and we're all moving towards the same goal. And it's chaos and it's wild. And some days it's like literally working till 10 p.m. at night. Exception, not the rule, obviously, but it's just a chaotic startup mess. But my God, it's so much fun. And I think that's why people want to be a part of Clout. Like, Clout jobs is the second highest search term that we have on Google after Clout.
Is it really?
Yeah.
One of your keywords?
Yeah, we had one of our job applications go up a couple of weeks ago, and we had like 1,000 applications for it come through the website.
How do you filter through that?
I mean, like, shout out Sarah. She spent the last like 2 weeks going through every single one, because I am such a believer that we don't do automatic like no's. We will look at every single application.
Do you respond to them all?
Yeah, every single one gets a response, even if it's a no, and 90% of the no's will get a tailored response as well, unless their application was so bad that it's not even worth us replying to.
That's really nice.
Yeah, like, I think it's important to, right? Like, if we're going to be a people business, we've got to like give people something. You can't just be like, oh, we brand people, not businesses, and not even brand our like employer brand,
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting because I was listening to Stephen Bartlett recently, as we all do, Diary of a CEO, shout out, hopefully I get a backlink there. And he was mentioning about how he very rarely hires for skill anymore. He very much hires based on cultural fit with his team now. I think based on what you're saying, that's pretty important, right?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about culture fit, because I think there is a risk there when you're thinking like about people that are hiring for culture fit, of only hiring people that fit into your current culture and not hiring people that you think will fit into your aspirational culture. So for example, if your culture's okay, but like your retention's not great, like you're losing like 30% of your staff each year, which is I think pretty average for agencies, and people like you, but they sort of leave after 2 years, like that to me is a cultural issue. So if you're continuing to hire people on that culture, you are never going to solve that problem, right? But if you hire aspirationally for what you want, so people that fit what you want to be as a business, then you start changing the culture. So it's not a culture fit, it's a culture add, right? Like you're adding to it or building on it. I don't know, it's kind of semantics, but I'm going with this somewhere. Yeah, you're adding to what you've currently got. So you're mitigating your risk of the current issue you have with your culture. So I would argue that actually, if you look at every single person in my business fundamentally, I would argue that none of them are culture fit, because they all, like in the sense of what everyone knows culture to be, right? For Clout culture, they all fit, because we're all, the thing that makes us all fit is we're aligned to the same goal, right? And also aligned with the values, and we're of a value fit, and that's our culture. But I think if people are only aligning people to come in that fit the mold that they've already built, they're sort of limiting their growth potential. So yeah, yes, culture, you need to have people that get on, but you don't need to have the same person. Absolutely. If anything, it kind of stunts your innovation, your growth.
Yeah. So they're almost those opposing skills, and
absolutely,
they complement one another in some respects.
And views. Like, I want people to challenge me. I've said things in the office before, and people have been like, "Why do you think that?" And we've had like a real debate about it. In fact, it's not just sometimes; it's often. Yeah. And I think that's really important. Like, someone said to me the other day, they were like, "I love it when we have chats like that in the office," and it was like me and someone else being like, "Rah, rah, rah," like debating something quite aggressively. And they were like, "Oh, I really learned something there," and I was like, great, that's exactly what I want this office to be like. I want you to leave here being like, I learned something today.
Do you know, one of the first posts I saw of yours, and this will show how long I've been following you, it's not too long actually, you'd received quite a threatening letter or email from a company with a similar logo to you.
Klarna, yeah.
I wasn't sure we were allowed to say it out loud.
We sent them like a message back, an email back.
How did that end? I'm just really curious to know.
Everyone wants to know that. It's so funny. It's like the first question that anyone that comes through my DMs asks, like, how's that Klarna lawsuit going? So yeah, Klarna sent us a cease and desist, basically saying that our logo was the same as theirs. Yeah. And we basically sent them an email back from attaching to the email all the other companies that had almost identical logos that were registered before Klarna, including ours, which was we used before Klarna registered, and basically said fuck off. And they didn't reply.
They didn't?
No.
That's amazing.
I've got my cease and desist framed on my desk. They're like, literally, it's in a frame on my desk. And everyone thinks I'm nuts, but I'm like, this is really proud moment for me.
This is 13-year-old Amelia all over again, isn't it?
I know,
like
I'm so
standing
proud.
up for
I'm
what
like,
you believe in.
Klarna cares about me. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Like, have they not got better things to do? You know?
No, like it was a joke. It wasn't. I saw it and I was like, is this a joke? And my EA was like, no, it's real. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go, because I know that I've had you on this podcast for quite some time now. What is it about your content and your personal branding strategy that builds that trust in your audience and makes them come back time and time again and spend their time and money with Clout and Amelia Sordell?
God, it's like I should ask my clients that.
Yeah, there's something magical going on, and I'm
don't
saying
know.
magical because it's Christmas.
I don't know if it's magical. I hate it when people go, it's because it's authentic. Like, what does authentic mean? Like, really, what does that mean? Because
True to yourself, I think.
yeah, but like when people say that, they don't actually mean be authentic. Like, if I was the Amelia that I am with my girlfriend Stace after having a couple champagnes, no one would want to work with me. And I mean that quite literally, because I am like I'm way more potty mouth than I am. We're talking about the most wild things. Like, and so I think when people say be authentic, like no one really understands what that means, because they always follow up with, well, how personal should I be? And all this kind of stuff. I think the thing that makes maybe me different, I want to say, like, because I don't think I'm the best personal branding person. I'm definitely not the best business person, but I think what I'm quite good at is being confident in what I say. Like, what I'm saying isn't revolutionary. Like, I'm not presenting ideas that no one else has discussed before. But when I do present ideas or I do post things, I'm like, I back that 100%. That, like, there is no part of me that's going to be upset if someone's upset by that. That is authentic. That's me as a person. And I'm 100% okay with my ideas being changed. Like, if someone came back to me with a good enough argument in person or online or wherever and was like, I think you're wrong because of this reason, I'd be like, oh yeah, fair. Like, great, I've learned something today. But I think that what makes me different, and potentially other creators as well, is like, we're just like, this is us. If you like it, great. If you don't, cool. Like, I'm 100% okay with the consequences of that. I don't need to be liked by everyone, and I definitely don't like everyone. So that's it. I'm not sure.
Authentic, that sounds like to me.
But that's what I mean. Like, I feel like people think that authentic means share everything. I don't share everything. I'm not going live on Instagram while I'm drinking Lauren Perrier with Stace. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not authentic after a couple of beers. You know, I'm authentic when I'm just myself at home and chilling out and doing my thing, and I'm completely comfortable within myself. So I think what you're doing is quite authentic in some respects.
yeah, no, it's 100% authentic. I always say to people, like, you've got to kind of look at your personality in sort of shaves. Like, the person you are at work, if you presented the guy that you are at work to your best mates, they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Because they don't know that side of you. They know the other side of you, which is the friend side.
That's true.
So what I mean by when people say be authentic, it's like, but which bit? Like, which bit am I bringing to the table here? And for me, I will share 80% of my life online, because I'm pretty happy to do so. But there is 20% of my life which I won't share. And you could argue that I'm not being authentic by not sharing that 20%. But for me, it's about boundaries. Like, I put my whole life online. So why on earth would I want to show you my kid's face and show you where I'm going on holiday? And like, all that kind of stuff, it's kind of irrelevant to me. Like, I'm not here to show off. I'm here to build this business, and posting stuff like that does not align to that goal. But yeah, secret sauce, be yourself. Like, don't... Look, if you're happy to have opinions to your friends, why wouldn't you be happy to have them online? Like, we build up this godlike sort of sense of fear when it comes to sharing stuff online, because we're like, oh my God, it's so permanent. But like, okay, so you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to be different. You're allowed to say, actually, I was wrong there. Just like, if you're a good person, just fucking post it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're in a world now where it's probably not so scary to post online as it perhaps was even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So
yeah, maybe. I think the cancel culture thing is pretty toxic.
Cancel culture?
Cancel culture. Yeah, like, you know, you say something and everyone goes, you're cancelled. We're not going to...
Oh, cancel. I thought you said council.
No,
sorry.
Cancel culture. It's my weird Australian tang. Cancel culture.
Are you from Australia?
Yeah, Melbourne.
Are you originally?
Yeah.
When did you move to the UK?
When I was 7.
Probably should have started the podcast with this, shouldn't we? Someone's like reintroducing
It's
you.
so funny because everyone goes, where are you from? And I'm like, Australian. They go, oh, I understand now.
Okay.
But yeah, I just think the whole cancel culture thing is toxic, and it often freaks people out of like the perception that people are going to have of who they are, because they're like, but they don't know who I am, and like that. It's like, fuck them.
Kanye West.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different kettle of fish. I think there's a big difference between cancelling stuff over stuff that, like, cancel culture in its conception is toxic. Hate speech and things of that nature, an entirely different beast.
Absolutely agree. Well, Amelia, thanks so much for joining us. I know we've been here for quite some time now, so thanks for taking the time to talk to me about all these weird and wonderful things that we're doing at the moment. And I think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing. Keep up that drive, keep up that determination, and keep doing what you're doing, because I really want to see you in that pink Lamborghini.
Yeah, in the pink Urus.
And then I'm going to comment on your post and I'm going to say, you made it.
I
so.
made it, yeah. I won't feel like that.
Well, I'll say you made it.
Days.
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
Yeah.
Pink house. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's my pleasure.